Our next speaker is Ciko Thomas. Ciko. It just says a lot about. Yeah, no, I need Ciko Thomas, Mr. Thomas. Group Managing Executive, Nedbank Retail and Business Banking. Ciko Thomas is the Group Managing Executive of Nedbank Retail and Business Banking. He leads the bank's largest business cluster with his extensive experience as an entrepreneur, seasoned executive coupled with strong strategic insights and a passion for abantu, people. He's passionate about driving financial inclusion and providing access to financial services for all South Africans. His belief is in the potential of people is matched not only by his recognition of power of technology and innovation, and in his role, he works tirelessly to bring the three together seamlessly to help drive the bank's purpose of being financial experts who do good. Ladies and gentlemen, he's with us in the building. Please can we put our hands together for Ciko Thomas. Asim show some love. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, guys. Honorable Deputy Minister, such a privilege to have you here and to have spent the time with you. Bulelani, Balabala, I can't see him, and the team from TEA, my colleagues, the rest of the support team that are part of the energy of this morning. Good morning and welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ciko Thomas. Sorry, I can't stand behind podiums. My name is Ciko Thomas. I work for Nedbank, and the introduction has done a good job of sharing who I am, so I won't repeat that. I wanted to come in. I wasn't invited. I wasn't on the official program today. My colleagues told me that they are coming to these workshops, and I gate crashed. I invited myself. Why did I invite myself? I invited myself because I was inspired by the stories that were coming out of the workshops that Bulelani spoke to, that they have already done as TA with us as Nedbank as a partner. I was hugely inspired, and I drew energy from that. You know, and I am hugely, pleasantly surprised by the energy I see in this room. I was energized by the presentations and the pitches, and I think all four of you who presented today, and the rest of the people who are displaying here today, I did a quick walk around. You are just inspirational. You are inspirational for many reasons, but least of which is the fact that if this economy is to grow, it's not going to grow because government came and created jobs, or government came and gave people grants, or government came and built RDP houses. All of those things, of course, are necessary, given our history. However, the economy is going to grow because small and micro enterprises, like the ones that you guys are nurturing, are going to be the fuel for the growth of this economy. So, well done to all of you for the work that you do, and I wish you every single bit of luck as SME owners in doing what you do. It's hard being an entrepreneur. It really, really is hard. I speak from experience. I've got a big fancy title at the bank, and I've got a big job at the bank. However, my own roots are entrepreneurial. And my colleagues asked me to share a bit of that story with you this morning so that I can give you a sense of why we believe as a bank, and me, in the position that I'm in the bank, believe so much in small businesses. So, Ciko Thomas, and you would have gathered from the surname that I'm Xhosa. So I'm from the Eastern Cape. I grew up in New Brighton, in the township outside the town of Gqeberha, what the town formerly called Port Elizabeth. That's where I grew up, in Kulekas. And in my growing up, I was an ordinary kid in Funda School in Lokshini, and then much later in life, I got scholarships and I ended up finishing up at private schools and all of that. But my heart and my DNA is from Ekas. Umlazi in particular is very dear to me because after I finished university, my first job, DM, was at Maiden Wharf. Ngangisebenza la eMtateni. Ngihlala eMtateni sort of Victoria Embankment. Ngisebenza eUnilever at Maiden Wharf. We sold soap. So ukufika kwami la eThekwini, I bought a house Umlazi. I shared a place, and then later on I moved to Newlands. So this place is dear to me because it shaped me professionally. The people of Umlazi shaped who I am in many ways professionally, and I still retain very good friends in Umlazi, and I'm inspired by people who do. I want to also congratulate Ubaba Mgcina, the owner of this fine establishment that is in, for the work that he does. And I know that Umex Ageko today, but for the work that he does for this business and for the community where his business operates from. But back to my story. So I started working, and I was working at Unilever, and I was on a professional career path. I loved the work that I did. Emsebenzini, I was in marketing, and my career was growing. Later on, I moved on to Egoli and worked for other bigger companies, and I even moved and worked overseas and lived overseas. I worked for Unilever in London, and then I left as Unilever and joined other companies. I joined South African Breweries, and I had opportunities to study and live overseas in many different parts of the world. I've lived and worked in places like Russia, places like South America, in Colombia, places like the DRC on the continent, the Czech Republic, Poland, different parts of the world. But what always drew me was the energy that we have in this country. I remember around 2000, which is where my entrepreneurial journey began in many ways. I was this hotshot young person building a very strong corporate career, and I was living in Rotterdam, in Holland. What had just happened at the time was a lot of countries. I made friends with guys from a country called Estonia. Estonia is part of the former USSR. It was one of the republics that were part of the old communist USSR. And when the USSR collapsed, all these countries went independent, and many of them started forging their own identities. The main country in the USSR is Russia, obviously, and we all know Russia. We know in particular now because it's causing trouble elsewhere, occupying Ukraine, but that's politics, and we won't go there. But one of the countries that inspired me was Estonia. There were guys from Estonia who grew up in the communist system, who were inspired to start their own businesses. And I happened at the time to be doing my MBA in Rotterdam at a school called Erasmus. And I made friends with guys from Estonia, and these guys were intended to go back to their countries and start their own businesses. Kwakunomngani wami at the time, who was also living in Europe. He lived in Germany across the border from Holland, and he was working for a company called BMW. You guys know BMW, I'm sure. Most people in this room, if you don't have the car, you probably have aspirations of the car. So umngani wami worked for BMW. He's a guy I grew up with. He's a guy from my part of the world, and he had happened to join BMW here, and he was on an executive development program in Munich at BMW. So one weekend I was visiting him, and we spent time nabangani bami from Estonia, my classmates. And we were inspired by what these guys were doing and what they intended doing for their country. One of the things that we said to ourselves we'll do when we get back home is that we'll start our own businesses. We will leave our comfortable corporate careers and go and start our own businesses. We came back and we started our own business. In 2000, one of the things that we said we'll target doing, so this is around 1999, 2000, is Ulita, my friend, my business partner, said, why don't we own a BMW dealership? Black people all over South Africa drive BMWs, and yet if you go here, he's my very good friend, Sean McCarthy, owns SMG la, ne? Or you go la, Lababala, Supertech, that wonderful Indian family that owns Supertech, they've got BMW dealerships. They're either white or they're Indian. There weren't any black people who owned BMWs, and yet we drove them and we bought them. So why couldn't we own it? Why couldn't we sell it? So we approached BMW and said, we want to buy and start a BMW dealership. They laughed at us. Takes a lot of money to own a BMW dealership, as you can imagine. I think, Z, you said you're struggling with space. One of the pitchers said they want to grow space. One of them, you have to buy very fancy premises. If you've been to Auto Umhlanga, you'll see how fancy those are. It takes a lot of money, and you have to buy the stock, not just of cars, but parts, and you have to employ people who are going to run the workshop and do all of those things. And Ziabi is a limit. They're not cheap cars, and you fund them yourself. So if you're going to have a floor full of BMW 7 Series, how much is a 7 Series? 2.5 million? You pay for it out of your own pocket. Then you sell it, and hopefully you make a profit. But you pay BMW upfront to buy the car. So we had this dream. So we approached BMW South Africa and said, we want to do this thing. And they asked us, why do we want to do this thing? Why singasuka BMW dealership and want to start a business like that? And it started with that question of what did we think we had unique? We believed that we were unique because we believed in the national cause. We believed that these things have to change. If it was not us who was going to change the status quo of white people owning dealerships, who was going to do it? Yeah? So that long journey culminated in us in December 2000, quitting our jobs and starting and buying a BMW dealership because they don't give you one afresh. You have to buy someone out. So we had to find funding to buy an existing owner. We found a BMW dealership in downtown Joburg that was owned by a big group, big listed company, World. They had a BMW dealership in downtown Joburg. If anyone knows Igoli and is old enough, there's lots of young people in this room, and their minds can go back to 20 years ago, you will understand what was happening to the CBD in Joburg. Businesses were leaving. There's crime, it hasn't changed much. So they had a dealership there, and they then said they don't want to operate in the CBD of Joburg, and we bought that business. We started there, and everyone told us that we are mad owning a luxury car dealership in the middle of Egngoleni, as we call it in Xhosa. But we had belief in ourselves. We backed ourselves, and on the 1st of December in 2000, we opened South Africa's first 100% black-owned BMW dealership. And what gave us the courage to do what we did? We backed ourselves. We backed ourselves. We had networks of people who had self-confidence. And there's a lot of things that go behind these things. But one of the things that we understood is that if this thing is going to survive and not sink us, because if that thing had sunk, it would have killed us. It would have killed us financially. We had young families. We had young children at the time. And I couldn't afford to put personally my family at risk, because if that thing had gone down, my family would have gone down and their fortunes would have gone down as well. We had massive borrowings. We borrowed money to the hilt to fund, to both do the acquisition and to have the working capital to allow us to build that business. So we needed to trade from day one. And how did we trade? How did we get into the business? We went back to basics. We said the first thing, and I liked what Ulelani said when he opened. He said, when you guys are sitting here today, you are sitting with peers and a network. We went back to our networks and we started selling cars to our network of friends. I remember our very first customer was a guy who was an accountant. I was at university with him, DM. He came to see, he was a very conservative accountant. He came to visit me. He just said, no, I'm doing an audit around town here. I came to open and congratulate you. He walked out of there in a brand new Z4. We sold him a Z4 just like that. And he became our first customer. Why did we do that? Because it was in my network. We tapped into our networks from day one. We tapped into our networks because they were there. Always tap into your networks in your business. You're gonna need them. And always work at developing them. Your story, on that slide, your story has to build networks of your own. You can never be an island if you're an entrepreneur. You need other people, not just your customers. You need your suppliers, you need your bank. You need to be able, better. You call your bank, don't run away from your bank. Call your bank manager, hey, bank manager, better this month. Bonus arrange. over the next 6 months, asihambe naso kanje isikoloto. Asihambe naso. Don't run away from a bank. Because if you run away from a bank, asazi phela ukuthi thina useyinkingeni. Asazi sowazi kanjani. We don't live in your business. Tina, we've given you money as a loan. Awusikhokheli, masikuthinta siyakufonela asikutholi. What are we going to think? We're going to send tracers to go and fetch our money. It's not actually our money as a bank, it's depositors' money. So we're responsible for our depositors to go and fetch their money. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to blacklist you if asikutoli. So don't run away from your bank. So, and that's what we understood as well. So we built this business. And one of the other things that we were very, very focused on, because we'd quit our job, we lived on that dealership floor. We knew every single customer who came to the dealership ngegama. We knew them by name, we knew who they were, we knew their circumstances, and we knew, importantly, what buying a BMW meant to them. Because buying a car is more than just buying something of sitting behind the steering wheel. You're buying an experience. So remember that, guys. You don't sell products. You sell experiences. Every single one of the things that you offer deals with an experience and solves a problem in a customer's lives, and you have to offer them an experience. There's a reason why I'm about to buy them. I don't buy them because I need to protect myself from stones lang apparently. I want to look good. And that's the experience for myself, and we understood that with our customers. And because we understood experience, customers enjoyed coming to buy cars from us. Because everywhere else they went, they were sold cars only, not cars plus experience. Yeah? So remember that. You're selling an experience. And so where does this story go? This story goes, at the time we bought the dealership, it was the worst performer in the country in terms of both sales and client experience. There were 52 BMW dealerships at that time around South Africa. We were number 52 in terms of sale. Those guys who bought the business didn't sell any cars, and their customer experience was poor. We pulled the business all the way to the top 15 in the country. We finished at number 14, 14th biggest seller of BMWs in the country, and consistently number 1 on customer service, consistently. And because our customer loved us, they just bought cars from us. They came from all over the country to buy cars from us. To this day, I drive around here and I see cars, my number plate, because I was in the business. I look at BMWs, especially the older models, because we sold it subsequently. You'll see on the number plates, Joburg City Auto, 011-220-4900, which was our phone number. To this day, people came from all over the country to support what we're doing. They loved the story, and they loved coming to us, and when they came to us, they loved the experience we offered them. This doesn't hold true for just BMWs, ladies and gentlemen. It holds for every business, every product, every service that you offer. Be in the hearts of your customers. It's really, really important, because that's the fuel that takes your business forward, and we must never forget this. So, fast forward a couple of years now, we're doing this business, and we are really successful, and the business is successful financially. The first thing that we did, we realized that if this business is going to succeed, we need to separate our personal financial needs from the financial needs of the business. The business as a financial entity needed a life of its own. Tina, as people who had our livelihoods from our business, needed to have financial lives of our own. So right up front, we worked out a salary that the business needed to pay us, the two of us as the owners, and that was the number. If that number was 5,000 rands a month, that's it. That's all we took from the business. We didn't, when we got bored or when the business was doing well, go to the TLC Vule and say, all right, this week we've done well, it is fine. Don't ever do that. Because once your business becomes your pocket money source, you're going to run into trouble. You're going to asphyxiate the cash flows of your business. So, and it's hard for small businesses. This truth is really, really hard for small businesses. Work out very quickly how much your lifestyle will be required to be supported by your business, and work out what that number is. And to the extent that the business can afford that number, pay yourself. But don't go above that. And if the business can't afford that number, Go elsewhere for your financial needs. Don't kill the lifeblood of the business, which is cash flow. Very important for all of us in this room. Don't ever use your business to subsidize. If the business is shooting the lights, by all means, at the end of the financial year, declare a dividend. And the dividend must then pay you. Professionalize your business. Ungai running to run a spaza shop because it's going to die. I can tell you now, 9.8 out of 10 times, if you're running your business like running a spaza shop, that's not formal. You're going to kill it. So don't kill your businesses, ladies and gentlemen. Nurture them. And you kill them by asphyxiating their cash flows, by drawing money from the till. Don't do that. So now we're doing well. We've set up this business. We have the opportunity to then buy other dealerships. VW approaches us. We buy a Volkswagen dealership in Braamfontein, in the CBD of Joburg, and we buy an Audi dealership. So anyone who's been to Braamfontein would have seen there's a VW at the bank, and Gune Audi la on Jorison when you drive into town. We used to own those businesses. And, you know, it's funny how you have a vision. Our vision actually was never to sell cars. Our vision was to create breakthrough for black businesses. We wanted to change the rules of the game. We wanted to challenge the status quo that said that black people cannot own BMW dealerships or cannot own car dealerships. When we opened Joburg City VW, it was the first black-owned VW dealership in the country. It was the very first one. We bought those businesses. Many years later, Deputy Minister, we get invited into something called BEE. We get invited into a BEE deal by a big company called World, the company that had sold us our original deal. They now invite us. They liked us. They were very kind to us. They nurtured us. There's a lesson in that as well. Always look after your relationships in business. Don't ever, when it's hard, it's easy. You know, there's something called, it's a terrible word. My friends call it fuck. Don't do that to your partners in business. People who nurture you. Always protect and nurture them, even when times are hard, because you're going to lean on them. So they invite us into a broad-based BE deal. It was a massively attractive deal for us. And as entrepreneurs, we had scaled sufficiently to now start thinking differently about our businesses. So we sold. We sold the dream and realized value out of the business. And we took the money that we made out of the deal and invested elsewhere. And it was personally at the time that we were selling, because I used to wake up every morning and go and sell cars. Manje, I've sold the business in Ngenzani. So we're looking for other things, and we're sniffing around trying to find other things to do. Around 2009, when I was approached by Nedbank, Bangcela to come and join them as an executive. I love what I do at Nedbank. Nedbank has been good for me since 2010. And the last truth I want to challenge with this is I had gone and started up businesses from scratch, grown them. There's an IT company in Ngayo that we're also running at the same time as well. That's a story for another day. We'd grown them, we'd scaled them, and we'd made money out of them. We had sold and harvested value out of the business. It's a classic business cycle. We understood and we had experienced that. Now, common logic says that entrepreneurs go then and do other things. Entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs. They don't go into corporate. But I love the corporate career. I love the idea of driving change in corporate South Africa as much as I love being an entrepreneur, and I didn't find a contradiction in that. So what I want to say to young people, there's a myth that's developing in South Africa these days that hayi ungasebenzeli corporate, hamba uyoyiphilela impilo yakho uzibonele ube yindoda or ube imbokodo umuntu wesifazana uziphilele wenze business yakho. There's nothing wrong when you're challenged and when you have an opportunity to go back to corporate and work and earn an honest day's salary. You can do both. There's no contradiction in that. I'm a classical living case of that. I've made a great success out of running an own business, and I'm reasonably successful in my corporate career as well. That's why I've earned the right to come and humbly stand in front of you guys today as an executive representing Nedbank. So, in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to share that story of my own journey to you guys as entrepreneurs and as business people. Because if we do not tell each other these stories, whether they are sweet or whether they are sour, we never learn from each other. We end up sitting at home thinking that ubunzima obami kuphela, yimi kuphela was going through challenges. And yet there's an ecosystem of people around you that you can lean on. talk to, seek counsel from, and get support from, whether they're your co-partners or the other people in the network, in your ecosystems. So it's very, very important to build those networks and those ecosystems. And in closing, I want to wish every single one of you and make a commitment that we as Nedbank are determined to walk with you and support you in your journey to the extent that you need us. We are there for you. We want to be partners in your journey of entrepreneurial growth, and go out there and grow your businesses and make them a success, the kind of success that this country is going to need if it's going to grow itself by levels above the 2% that it is growing at currently. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your audience.